And now we will see the two winners play, Jackson versus Arie. So having already won both of their first matches, this is a huge matchup.
Two super strong players.
These two players really bring some consistency and high level thought that really makes for top level Scrabble. And Chloe, you said you were looking up their head to head stats. What did you find?
Yes. So Jackson has won 7 of their matchups, and Arie has won 10. So Arie has a
Okay.
3-game advantage in tournaments over Jackson.
And
Right.
I'd have an easier
Who?
time playing Arie if against me he would draw
Yeah.
A-A-E-I-O-O.
That is an instant exchange rack. Can't
Yeah.
do anything
The
with all
only
those
decision
spells.
is exchange 7 or keep the E, and I think you keep the E, which
Yeah,
he did.
I would definitely keep the E as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Jackson drew a lot better. Doesn't
he
look
did.
like he has a natural 7, but he is quite close. If he doesn't have a
Yeah, I wonder.
7,
Yeah,
he
this
could
is
play
one of those
Pry.
turns where you sort of have to decide if you want to take a fishier route or score more points. So he is something like
Like,
repay, which would score well, or just like yip or yap to keep,
right.
a more synergistic, more of those bingo friendly tiles. Um,
Yeah,
I don't
repay,
know.
I mean, it's even leaving IN towards repaying, not that it's the most important
Yeah, I
thing. It
know.
does slot an
Yeah.
E next to a multiplier, so something like YIP is maybe a bit more defensive, and or YAP, NIER or NEAR are probably quite
Yeah.
close in static
Yeah.
leaves.
Yeah, I mean, he could also do
Um,
something like Piney if he doesn't want to set
or
up the
Pinery.
Pine as
That
well, and that would
Pinery hits
prevent
the double with the
overlap.
Y without putting a vowel beneath the scoring spot. The only thing is the A as a leave isn't as
Oh,
good.
so yeah, he's
So
doing
he is
Pinery.
going to play Pinery. Okay. I'm glad I found it before he
Nice.
did, although he could have found it earlier and was just debating. Ari has that Q, and he has a French word, cinq, which could allow him to dump it and get rid of a couple consonants. So that would look to be the best play.
Yeah,
He
it's
doesn't have
gotta
an S,
be.
so it would set up a big S lane, but it might just be what he has to
But
do. He could also just drop the Q if he thinks Mancer is a strong enough 6 tile lead.
yeah, I
And
wonder what that could hit. I think the I would be a big help for that leave.
right.
Um, but without it, I'm sure there's some options through the E. But given how much QI would restrict things, yeah, I wonder
Yeah,
if that's
like
worth it. It might just be worth
I
it to not open the S hook anyway. I don't know.
right. Like an O would
Yeah.
lead to romance, I guess.
But like
Um,
where would that even
well,
go?
it would fit with PE
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Forgot
or
about
is
that.
romancer good, or is that just like a sci-fi term of
Yeah, I don't
something?
I don't think Romancer is good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right to
But
me
yeah,
in the Scrabble
he's going
sense.
with Sync, which is very reasonable. 4 extra points, and the CN aren't really helping him. I don't think there's really any reason to think Jackson might have had an S with Pinery, but obviously
No, I don't think so.
with a 6 tile draw, he could have drawn one, but he did not. So that will remain
But he drew the
unused.
J, and like
Yeah,
before I suggested he set it up, Joey would be what I'm thinking, a young kangaroo being the definition.
yeah,
And it leaves tiles that are more towards a bingo, not exactly what you want to be leaving, but it scores nicely, about 30 points, I believe. And
yeah. I
it
think
really
Joey
wouldn't be
seems good.
opening too much for Ari to respond to. It takes away the R, which was the big tile to play through. If Ari doesn't have an S, and he doesn't, um, he's looking at this point now to play probably from the R to the Y. I mean, he also has the O for
Hmm.
beneath the J.
Yeah.
Um,
What could he do? Um,
and can he do something clever to set up his Z with the A? Like something like
um,
Armory, but that doesn't quite set up the Z where it
I
needs to
mean,
be.
Mary, I guess would work, Mary, but it's just like so
Yeah,
often you're using that spot that
exactly.
it can't
Yeah.
be worth it.
He
Huh.
could play Razor from the R in Pinery.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems pretty reasonable to me.
It's the best I've seen so far, which doesn't mean it is the best. Scrabble in the chat suggesting 0. He does have the A to go beneath the Z if he plays the Z out in space
That's
there,
true.
but it is giving his opponent the first crack at that spot. So I would be more likely to play Razor, knowing that there's already a big S hook available with Sank, and keeping the E instead of the A. But um,
Oh, sorry.
both options.
Romancer is a word. Just
Oh, it is.
correcting
Okay.
that. Sorry. But yeah, 0. I don't know. It's not the kind of play I'm inclined to make when I have something like Razor, which
Yeah, I
it's like
agree.
there's slightly more, and you keep an A, but there's a whole bunch of other A's out there, and it's just such a huge spot that
It's too easy
I
to get
don't love
hit
it.
with a vertical play even
Yeah.
through the Z, right?
Yeah, through the Z. Yeah, through the. Yeah, I gotta say Z. Um, so yeah,
Okay, so
Razor
Razor
comes
comes
down.
down.
I like that. Um, yeah, I just
Yeah,
think there's no need for the few extra points to take that sort of risk.
right. And I'm glad to see Arie make that decision. Whereas Jackson is not looking at the sort of tiles that somebody really wants.
Yeah, I'm guessing something like
Agio?
Guiro or
Okay,
Agio. Yeah,
yeah, Guiro gets rid of more the bad tiles being the U. Agio probably scores more
will
because you also
score
get
a
the
bit
point
better.
from the
Yeah,
GA. Jackson has some sort of an outplay setup, outgain maybe. He has the A and the I inverted, but he'd probably fix that if that's what he were to. He's going to play Guiro, okay.
okay. I think I like that. I hate the U. When you can get
Yeah.
rid of the U,
And it looks more
seems
defensive than AGO too,
yeah,
hanging those A and the G for Arie to possibly bingo with. Plus, the R would have been open from the Razor if he didn't make that play. So, all things
right.
considered, I actually think that's a better decision.
Yeah.
And Arie now, that's a nicely balanced leave, but does
Yeah,
it
it
hit?
looks promising, but don't see anything that works for him yet.
No. And like, I'm
Um,
looking for man or men endings to
yeah,
the N and thank, but doesn't look like that hits. The Y looks promising with this leave. It looks promising as a natural 7, and yet if nothing hits, he might just have to go over from the G to the triple and take some points.
some- yeah, something like Grub or
Grub,
yeah, Grub
anything
or
like that.
Glum seems pretty
Um,
reasonable.
or does he possibly have something to the Y that gets rid of maybe both the B and the M? Not that he necessarily has to get rid of the M,
Yeah.
but just as an option. I'm not seeing
Um,
anything that would be better.
yeah, I think like there's no, I mean the B isn't the best tile. It does work nicely with the L. Um, if the BL combo is good,
Right.
but I think there's no need to get rid of both unless there's like a big scoring advantage. It's nice to hold on to one scoring tile to prevent you having all 1 point tiles the next turn and having nothing to do. So
I
yeah,
do agree. And if we're talking about synergy, if he played Grum, he could keep ABLE, a bull, right, as a nice
that's
suffix.
true, and
But it
that
really
works
forms
nicely
a
with the
lot of
Y
words.
as well
Yeah,
for
goes
the
nicely with the Y
ABLY
and the
ending.
M that he'd be hanging in space.
Yeah,
But if
yeah, I
he
don't
doesn't
mind
hit a
that
play
at
like
all.
that, then he would much rather have left himself the M, a much friendlier tile, than the B, which doesn't really form quite as many words.
Right.
So we'll see what he decides here. I think any decision here is going to be, assuming he's playing horizontally from the G, is going to be pretty even in value. So you don't want to use too much clock. Um, yeah, Grupp maybe is MALE, maybe is the best
Yeah, I
leave.
think that seems fine. You keep the B to play through the MBL. The MBL works really
Right.
nicely together. You have the R. So yeah, that one seems. I prefer
Yeah,
it to
I don't know if
Glum.
Steve Grob's still in the chat, but he was upset his name is not a valid
Uh,
Scrabble word, but with the U instead of the O, it is. So I know
Oh,
Arie
there
used
is a
to drive out to Michigan to play with people like Steve a lot when he used to live in Windsor, right near the border. So he's going to play
one.
similar to his friend
Yeah.
Steve of Grub.
I think there might have been one play worth considering to the Y, which would be Aumbry, Aumbry. I didn't
Oh,
spot
right.
it at
Yeah.
first, but
I
yeah,
didn't
that
see
was
that
also,
either.
I
I
think,
like that.
yeah, that's worth thinking
Um,
about.
26 points, I believe, if my math was right. So that would have been an
So
extra
yeah,
five.
5 more points.
Five more points,
Um,
and you're discussing leaving MALE versus just EL. So MALE is a lot stronger. Um,
yeah,
so these are the sort of things that top players really have to think about. As Jackson finds laxity, beautiful.
very nice. And yeah, that's one of the only things that's gonna uh, score well. You know, I guess there are a few other
So
options, but
it
it
scores
looks good for
nicely, and
him.
it leaves IT, which is nice. He undoubled his tiles. The one
Yeah,
bad thing about this
exactly.
play, of course, is it leads to a lot of overlaps or even underlaps. But when you have tiles like that on a board like this, there's not much else you can do. And we've been seeing this sort of all day where a lot of the big points have come out early. The J, the Q, the Z, the X, they're all gone. So what's going to be remaining is a lot of the 1 point tiles, a lot of the bingo tiles, both blanks, all four S's. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
emo will
that,
come down. That looks
right.
very good.
Yeah, the
Um,
overlap we were talking about, and it leaves SALE, SALE, so nicely balanced. Two constants, two
yeah,
vowels, the
yeah,
S, the E.
especially with what's open on the board with the B and the R. There's a Guiro's hook available, so a lot to work
Right.
with for Ari.
And
Um,
Ari seems to be drawing pretty well. Um, is anything going to quite hit? I'm not sure. But first, Jackson has Vitrin, I believe, set up.
right. Um, yeah, it's got to be that. Um,
Yeah, like his thought here is to play long, go for those S's, go for those blanks, open the board. He's ahead
yeah,
by five, and it's his turn, so he has the slightest of leads.
yeah, and there's really not too much you can read from Grub or Emo, I think. Um, they both just seem sort of like standard. I mean, Grub, there was a little more to think about, but with Emo, with that spot open, you're often just gonna cash in on it.
Oh, and Vitrin is not good.
Um,
It needs an A, as we
okay.
are being told. So Vitric, it doesn't even work because of IP,
They might be
or
thinking of phoning.
he could be
Um,
thinking of phoning. It might have gotten by both of us, so there you go. But yeah, so if he doesn't want to play the phony, which would probably be a good idea, what could he play? The board's
what could
quite
he do?
close. Like he'd want to get unduplicate his T's in his eyes and drop the V. Those would be the sort of goals if we're just thinking on a very
Yeah.
static.
Um, yeah, it's really hard. I guess if you can play Virtue or Virtue and keep the E through the U and Grub.
Yeah,
But
you
again, just
could.
very uninspiring, doesn't score many
Yeah,
points. Yeah, I was
yeah,
also going to
I
suggest
saw
Min as
that.
the other
Right.
option, which, keeps things a little tighter, doesn't give any floating tiles, any
And
floaters.
it leaves nice tiles for him to try and
Yeah,
bingo on his next
exactly.
turn. But I think Ari's going to get to
Yep.
the bingo first.
Yeah, he'll get tall U8s down,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
and that's not giving back on the board, for bingos at least. So it is
And he
good
finds
that
it
for
right
Jackson
away.
that he picked the D for demo, which will be
Demo,
an
yeah.
important hook.
And it's a good thing Ari didn't try totalers, because that's definitely a phony you could see people try. It would have hit
Yeah,
the double word score. So if he thought about it, he might have tried something dumb there. But this is a much better idea, playing the valid bingo. Jackson did draw that key D, like you said, for demo, but he hasn't
but
drawn
not much to
a
go with it.
seven to go down to it. So maybe he'll look to open up either the top right or the bottom right with a play going vertically.
Right, yeah,
Something
what
very
could he
simple like
do?
tired or something better than that, maybe that also gets rid of the U.
Yeah, I think you really do want to get rid of the U. just a question of how.
I mean, rutted
Um,
at the top, Rutted,
yeah, that would
and
work.
then it sets up an R for him to bingo towards as
Right.
sort of a
I mean, he's
long-term
not
bingo wall.
down a ton. Obviously, he's down like a turn and a half, but not a full bingo to the point where
Right.
he needs to
He
bingo.
doesn't have to blow it up. Definitely not.
Yeah,
He is setting up
yeah,
rutted.
he's-
The
yeah. I
problem
think it
is the
makes
plays
sense.
that don't break up the rack just don't do anything, right? Like if
Yeah,
you had a shorter
exactly.
play that we could maybe consider, I'd love the idea of it, but
Yeah, there's just not much,
I don't
not
see
too
the
many
way, like
options.
this, is there somewhere to drop just UT? Because those are the
Uh,
tiles that, out of all of them, that he'd probably want to be getting rid of.
mhm. Yeah, let's bring Josh in to talk about that Vin turn. It was interesting. Oh,
Hey,
hey,
I'm back.
look at
Hey
that.
guys. Wow, you're a magician. Okay, yeah. So first of all, there's a question in chat. Does Jackson not alphagram his rack? Good question by Truthmain. We like the play of rutted, by the way. This is what Jackson's about to play. I think that's probably the right idea. Just score some points, stay within range. Jackson does alphagram his rack sometimes, not always. Maybe not that often actually, but yeah, he's one of those
That
that
could be one
doesn't
of those
alphagram
tells.
it
He
that
tends to
much.
do it when he has a close rack.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
he.
So if you're
Uh-huh.
really trying to yeah, trying to psychologically understand the player, which you shouldn't be if you're a truth main, as Ari's just going to play hind for a lot of
Yeah.
points. Yeah, let's talk about the Vin turn. So Jackson was thinking of playing Virtue with or without the E on the end of it. Um, he's probably regretting that right now because that would have indeed blocked Toluates, but that wasn't the correct play. Vin was a very good play. There was actually a really, really interesting play available to Jackson on the turn of Vin, and it was Zit from the Z in Razor, keeping
Oh,
VITER, keeping Rivet on your rack, which you don't like to keep the V, but actually that combination can be pretty good. He might have been able to use the eye hook on, that's the whole idea. Play Zit to set up the eye. He might have been able to use that to score well or to bingo next turn, given that there were so few eyes already left unseen to Jackson.
Mhm.
The eye in
And
Pinery, the
speaking
eye
of,
in Laxity, Guiro. Yeah. So that would have been really cool to make that play. It's possibly the best play. Anyways, back to you guys while Jackson's trying to come back from his 60 point deficit.
yeah, speaking of alphagramming your rack, he has just done so with this sort of bingo friendly
hmm.
looking rack. So, yeah, Emmett, your observation was um,
I've played
a good.
Jackson
It was a
probably
good
more
question.
than nearly anyone live, but um, the more I announce that I know of his sort of tells, the more he's going to change them up because he's clever like that. So Anel looks like
Yeah.
a great play because once again, two consonants, two vowels, the best consonant of the S and the best vowel of the E. It's just exactly what you want to be doing. And it also forks the board, a term we've been using all day to leave different lanes available. As Arie, wow, I was thinking he had caribous on his rack, but he was thinking even
Sub-acrid?
better. Sub-acrid, making that
It's
C double also. I
wow.
definitely like this as a word. What do you think, Chloe?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's
It looks
good. That's very
familiar.
nice.
Would I
Yeah, I
have
did
found
not
it?
spot
I
it
don't
at
think
first.
so, but I
I
don't
don't
think I
think
would
I would.
challenge it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very nice. And that'll
Sub-acrid,
give him a
and the
huge
definition
lead.
meaning somewhat acrid. So beautiful play by
Wow.
Ari. Uh, I wonder if
Jackson will
Jackson
bingo
has
back,
held the play because it doesn't
perhaps,
look
because
like
you'd think
Ari's
he would
drawn
come
new
down.
tiles.
Yeah. He does have a bingo back of
He has
Neediest.
Neediest.
So,
Yeah,
and I think that if this does get challenged, there's a lot of the time, well, maybe
it'll
not,
stay
but some of
open.
the time at least, Ari would be playing up in that area and block it. So
I think
you would
more
not want to
often than
see
not
that
it
happen.
would stay
Okay.
open, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he does not challenge, and Neediest comes down, so he'll still be able to remain in range of coming back, though still at a deficit.
Right. If it was like a few turns later in the game, he might have challenged because he would have known there was really no path to victory if Sub-acrid was good. But at this point, being down a bingo, but still having about 40% of the game left, gives him enough chance with the right draws for him to possibly come back in this game. Of course, being down 77 and a turn still makes
Oh, but
it.
that's a great draw.
Yeah, well,
That's
that will help him
exactly
get
what
back
he
to the
wanted.
game. The
Yeah.
second blank. Or the first blank, I should
So,
say.
yeah. I feel like something like Vang for Arie will
Yeah,
come
it
down
scores
here.
nicely. Or Pong in the same
So
spot.
yeah.
It sets up the S hook. I mean,
Yeah,
you could
which you won't
already put an
love.
S next to the A of an L, but this S hook would score more.
Yeah.
Is there a way he could really clog things up? Maybe clog both those lanes, like a play beneath the N of
Yeah.
Neediest going to the left to try and get rid of
Right.
both the bingo lanes.
Um,
Although then the R is
I
still
don't
open
see a
up top.
5 unless I'm
Right.
missing something. Um,
I don't see one either. If such a play is not available, I'd be looking at something like Fang. But Josh has Quackle open and his beautiful big brain. So let's hear what he has to think.
You have a big brain too, Jared. Thank you for the compliment.
Merci.
So
beautiful?
there is one beautiful. I don't know. I haven't looked in there.
Okay. Debatable.
There's one 5-letter word you can play through the end. It's not very good though. Scanoff. But yeah, the two options here I think are Vang, which you guys mentioned you don't like because it sets up an S hook, and Fop atop the E, D, and I for 36 points. And I think I like Vang because it takes away that spot that Jackson could use to fork the board or score points. And it leaves Arie with Fop for the next turn that might go
Right.
unblocked.
right.
So I think Vang is probably the choice.
Yep, he's going with Fop.
Well, it's probably not going to make much of a difference because I think Jackson's just going to bingo and Arie's going to play Vang next turn.
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah.
probably the path. Although he could bingo beneath the N in Neediest.
Oh, now he can play Wafters.
No,
right?
that's not a word.
It's just Fretsaw. It's just Fretsaw. Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
I
Right?
could see him
Am I
trying
wrong?
Wafters. It's definitely sounds plausible.
We'll see.
I could be wrong, but I remember.
There's
maybe.
something like that.
And
Yeah,
there he goes,
there's one of
alphabetizing
those.
his rack again. He's close to a bingo. It's time.
Yeah, they're both good. So Wafters
Okay,
Okay,
will
wow,
probably
I'm
be
so
the highest
wrong
scoring.
today. Sorry
So
for
Wafters
my
underlaps
doubt.
more, so that would definitely look like a nice play.
So he does play Fop. Interesting. Okay, let me update this score. Yeah, I don't know if you're right about that, Chloe. Like, you've been killing it. I've been watching you on Aerolith score
Thank
better
you.
or almost as good or just as good as me on the words. So I wouldn't be worried if I were you. I think you've been doing really, really well on words. But yeah, sometimes there are words where you immediately think of a word and it's not the right word. Like here, you could very much see Fretsaw, be like, oh, that's the word in here, not Wafters. But both are indeed valid in this case. And Jackson, I think, is playing it with relative confidence.
I mean, those ER endings are tough just because any verb could sort of take an ER ending, in this case, to waft, a wafter. Like, it's tough. In this case, it's valid. Will Arie challenge? Will he hold?
I think he's not holding. Maybe he is. We'll have to see. The rack. The rack will tell us how quickly Jackson draws his letters. Yeah, very interesting. Jackson's now back within range. He's 27 points behind. He definitely needed those two bingos in a row after the beautiful Sub-acrid play. So I guess I'll leave you guys to it. I think this game has been played really, really well by both players.
I agree. I think it's been the best played game of the day. The most consistent.
Probably
I haven't really seen
there.
any big errors by any. I don't know if I've really seen any errors.
Yeah, I guess
to be honest.
Vin is like one of the only debatable turns of this game, and even Vin was very solid.
And even Vin looks pretty good. Jackson's now drawn tiles. Took him a bit longer, so it could be a hold where Arie is still considering challenging, but I don't think he's gonna pull a challenge here. You'd have to be pretty confident with your lead plus tempo to challenge here. And I don't think he'll be confident to know it's not a word.
Yeah, because he has good plays available that'll solidly cement his lead as like 50, 60 points.
Right.
So yeah, it just seems risky and yeah, not worth it to challenge here.
The one concern, of course, is that there still is one blank unseen to Arie, to both players actually. But
Yeah.
so if you don't challenge here, which we don't think he's going to, what sort of plays are you looking at?
Yeah, Scrabble in the chat suggested Ganev through the NE, hitting
Okay.
the triple. So that looks pretty good. I would also look
It
at
sets up potential ing ending
that.
words
Yeah,
though at
it
the
is a
top. It's a
concern.
big risk. I don't know what the pool
Um,
is, how many I's and N's are unseen, but that is something I'd be very careful about.
yeah, I would
Something
also
like
look for
pinning in the
things
same
parallel
spot might be safer.
wafters, I guess. Yeah, just Bang or Vane. Um, something parallel, like on top of wafters, but I'm just not seeing
Right, like
a
Vagal,
ton there.
VAGAL, like the nerve works, but it
Yeah,
opens the triple, so you really don't want to do that with the blank unseen.
yeah, exactly.
But it looks like Josh has
Let's see
found
if
a
there's
play
any
that
other
we are
options.
overlooking, and so we are going to jump back to our friend in Montreal.
I don't know about
Beautiful
this. Like,
game.
this is some engine stuff right here. I don't know if we can
Okay,
curse on this broadcast. Um, there's a
I'll allow it.
play hooking the A and Anel
Okay.
Gavil for 20 points, making LA, which is doing
Hmm.
very, very well in an engine simulation. And the reason that it's doing so well is just math, basically. The likelihood that Jackson is going to be able to use the big A8 spot, so that that middle left triple after Gavil, is not very high, with only one other A unseen.
Which he, of
Jackson
course, has.
does have a big
Yeah,
play there, but even if he does score well in that spot, there will be
The bingo
almost
lanes are sort of
nothing
gone.
left on the
yeah, the
Yeah.
board,
board's
and
like
Arie
basically
has the K,
exhausted.
the best letter, right?
This
Truth
is the
main.
epitome of a computer play, not a human play. This is
Yeah,
not
This is
something
a
that I see coming down.
this is a
yeah,
Even though I
totally
was saying
insane
earlier
play.
that Ari does play a lot like the computer, but I still think he's more
yeah.
likely to
I don't
play
think he's gonna play
something.
Gavil.
No,
I
I'd
wouldn't
be
put it
shocked.
past him, but yeah, it seems unlikely.
But other than that insane play, which, by the way, another reason that it's so good is if Jackson doesn't hit that spot, Arie can draw one of the two remaining O's to just play OK and KA for 1,000,000 points, or the last A and score really well overlapping the K, or just score with the K elsewhere. He's
Yeah, the
playing
Like
Vakil
Vakil
Vakil,
makes sense.
here. I mean,
which
that
is,
works
yeah.
I don't
too.
mind
Scrabble in
that.
the chat suggested Kiva, where you suggested Gavil, so that's a lot more defensive,
Mm-hmm.
and still starts taking out lanes. So that's definitely an idea as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there are
Yeah,
lots of plays to consider here, despite the awkward rack. And Vakil does a great job at blocking a lot of the board and scoring well. So we like
Yeah,
this
and any
approach.
bingo Jackson could get down now would sort of have to be down that second vertical column, which really wouldn't score all that much and probably gives a lot back. And Ari's drawn that key D to hook emo into demo, which Jackson would have much rather seen on his own rack.
Yeah, and now I think Jackson, what he has to do here is either figure out, now that there are 5 tiles left unseen, figure out if he can potentially win after a play like Wove or Weave through the V and Vakil, which will bring him 20 or 15 or 10 points,
right.
around 20 points behind. Or if he's going to try to do something desperate.
Yeah, you might have
But
to be
it's
a bit
looking
crazier.
really, really difficult
Yeah.
to win this game.
Did
I
you
mean, you
say
can
how many
still
were
draw
left
the
in the bag?
blank. There are 5
Yeah,
left in the bag.
can we see the
Okay.
unseen tile pool to him? Because maybe he
Yeah,
could
I'm
open
gonna
something up above the NE and Neediest, like Wayne or
feel free
Oh,
Home,
to
that's
or
a
post
maybe.
that.
yeah.
Feel free to
Okay,
That's a
post
so
good
that
it's
in
looking.
the YouTube.
Yeah, I got it.
you got it. Okay. Yeah,
So
so the
those are
pool
the
That's a
unseen to
good
unseen
looking
Jackson is
pool.
beautiful. These are the bingo tiles that he needs.
Yeah, and Ari does not have a. I mean, he has good looking letters, but not the bingo ones. So
Yeah, the better tiles that
yeah,
Jackson wants, like the blank and the R and the E, well, he has two E's, but are in the bag still.
yeah,
So I think what he's going to want to do is see if he can open up a second spot on the board, knowing that Ari's going to take out the bingo lane most likely.
exactly.
So
Yeah, and you would
it's
think
worth
that would be
noting. Go
something
ahead,
with
Chloe.
the NE. Sorry, I was gonna say you'd think that would be
Yep.
something with the NE in Neediest. But I just if you want to get rid of your W and as well,
So
not sure.
It
Yeah,
looks
it
Jackson
like
looks
he's
like
setting
is
up
he think
who, WHO
maybe
above.
yeah.
thinking of playing who and one,
Yeah, that
That
which
looks.
would
seems
be
kind
very
of
interesting.
crazy. There's
I
just
don't
so many
know.
letters.
I think it's
There's
time
so
for
many
crazy, though. I don't think he wins unless he tries something a bit
yeah,
crazier here.
I think the math will
maybe
check out if he plays who and then gets a bingo on the column next to ANELE, or even I was going to mention there is a lane hidden sort of on the bottom left. You can hook
with
an L
anneals.
with
Yeah.
a D, I think, and that could also work. So the fact that there are multiple threats is in Jackson's interest here, and to create another one, which seems pretty yeah crazy. I mean, I think the problem with playing WHO and ONE is that Ari can actually just play off one tile next
Mm.
turn, and potentially that would be good enough, but it probably isn't good enough. I think this is a really interesting idea. And yeah, if you consider like how what can Ari do on the top row after WHO? He can score probably 40 points, but is that enough? I mean,
Mhm.
he'll only be up 70 or so after that play. So any bingo after that should win the game for Jackson. So this is the
Well,
play
if
he's considering.
Jackson's down 51, who would score 20, which would make it 31? Ari's
Mhm.
response, if he played above,
With
could score quite a lot, making it, you're right, the bingo
it
would then win.
yeah. It would
So
be
if he
close,
does
but
play who, Gloam is probably going to come down. GLOAM. For
wait.
that's going to be 50.
Wait,
Oh,
M-O-N-E?
Wait,
MONE. Sorry,
MONE? Yeah, I
no, that
think
doesn't
just
work. That
goad.
doesn't work.
Probably goad or
Well,
Yeah,
goat's not
yeah.
going to be enough
MONE.
to win.
Yeah,
So
it's
goad, yeah,
43
that
for
wouldn't be good
goad.
enough. Yeah, it just
But
illustrates the
you,
point, I guess. Even though I thought that
yeah.
MONE was playable, there isn't actually that. Oh,
Oops.
Ooh, what
we had
happened
a little
there?
bit of a
Oh, did he
crash
just
there.
just got
Those aren't the
excited?
tiles he had before. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, maybe something happened to the board, but
Okay, the equipment was knocked
Jackson's
over,
clock is
according to our
still.
director, Josh Greenway.
Gotcha.
Oh my
It
God,
happens.
Ari's gonna have to pay for that, isn't he? But yeah, goad is not gonna be enough. Goad and done
No.
would
Right.
be just over 40 points. So any
Now
bingo
where
on
is
the
yeah,
I
here's
think
whoa,
woe is
WOE setup.
next to
Where would
the
that
E and
be?
an L, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. That seems
But would that allow for a play down the first column to block both the A
right.
and the spot that we is opening up?
So this is a
It
very
often
key
could.
strategic tactical position where it's very important, I think, for Jackson not to leave more than two letters in the bag, because that can
Mhm.
allow Ari to play off two letters, score some points, and still not empty the bag. So unless he creates a very big threat with a two tile play, it's probably not enough. But he's thinking of WOE,
Yeah, no, I
which
think every play's been
I
looking
don't
at
know
us
about
from
that.
three.
I don't know, because then
That
something like
allows,
Dogma can come down
yeah,
and
bigger
totally leave
overlaps.
him no options.
Yeah, he's gonna play who if he's playing this where I think he's playing this, this will be very interesting to see what he draws.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
this
who has
could be
looked like the
a
best play to me so far?
crazy winning play. I don't
But
Wow.
know.
he's,
I feel like
What is
Wove
he
could
thinking?
be better. That might
but
just be what he's
like
thinking.
Chloe said, if he plays Woe, Ari can then play
Wove.
Oh, he's thinking
Dogma.
Wove, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, the
Wove.
play
I
I
think
But
mentioned
he.
is that a,
earlier.
But
is
what
that
does Wove accomplish?
scores
Yeah,
points, threatens multiple
Oh no!
ways to
Oh,
win.
that.
Oh, he's
Oh,
playing
He's
who
playing
he's
there?
thinking who
there.
there. So yeah, now something like Dogma.
Now
I
Like
mean,
Dogma,
obviously,
like you
Gloam.
Gloam
said.
does work.
See, Gloam works,
Or
guys.
Yeah, like
oh,
the
were
plays
we
there
just
get hit for so
miscommunicating?
many points.
That's 50
Um,
points.
Oh, and the
Let's
third
update the
E.
scores. And he didn't draw the
Yeah,
and
he's
he
blank.
not
didn't
All
draw the
right.
even.
blank.
He
Yeah.
missed the blank.
So I think the
Wow.
pool is
hold
R
on.
blank. If I'm not mistaken, the bag will have R
Wow.
blank.
So even now after Gloam, Arie's
Yeah,
only
it's
had
still not. He
78.
can't play Gloam. Like, because he could
Yeah,
lose
he
to a
is.
bingo, right? If he had
Um,
teenage instead of an I, if he had the blank, I
where
think
does teenage
the
fit?
oh, it doesn't fit. Sorry. So if he had Regine instead of if he had an R instead of the E and played Regine next to A and N of an L,
Mm-hmm.
It's a
isn't
tie.
that good? That would tie.
Tie.
Yeah, that's a
Wow.
tie. That's a tie.
Wow.
Wow, this is crazy because let's
But isn't
say he
Chloe's
has.
idea of dogma? Isn't that going to win every time?
Yeah, like what does that leave for Jackson?
Like I
Yeah,
don't
Dogma is a
see.
great idea. Where do
Yeah.
Yeah,
you?
that's
Yeah,
the
where do
risk
you
of
bingo
playing in the
after
Just
bottom
that?
dog.
left.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
guess
he is
you
gonna
could
play Dogma.
bingo. I guess you could
Yeah,
bingo
very nice.
above Sub-acrid. Is there anything? Wow,
I,
Dogma. What a great find by both of you.
Yeah, very nice.
And he's hit his
Regin
clock.
May almost fits above Sub-acrid, but
Yeah, very
not
close.
quite. EA.
Wow. Okay, so now Arie's ahead
And
46.
that.
And
That is
that'll do
good.
it.
Yeah.
But I want to see if there's anything that could have happened.
With
Yeah,
who?
Germina and Reginald could have fit above
Oh, wow.
above Sub-acrid, and those would have won the game.
So it's
But I
which
think
two out of.
Reginald making
Okay.
ISNUAB and
Yeah, yeah.
LA, and
Mhm.
Germina, so
Okay.
GERMINA. Those would have been the winning plays for Jackson that he could have drawn actually.
Okay, so
Oh.
it wasn't a guarantee.
It was
He
not.
would never
So, yeah.
have drawn them because he had both E's.
Oh,
So
okay.
in the specific
No,
situation,
but from Ari's
from Ari's
perspective, it was
perspective.
but
possible.
from
Yeah.
Arie's perspective, yeah, crazy.
Ari must have been very relieved to see that blank come down. Now he could play something like Pillar or whatever he finds and end this game.
Yeah,
I don't think there are any front extensions to Dogma. So he's going to play something like Solar. I think he can score more than that, and I think he just realized that too.
yeah. I mean, he does have to make sure he doesn't play a phony because if he plays a phony, he loses. Wait, does he? Hold on. He's down.
No.
Hold on.
46.
Hold on. He's down.
46 minus
He's up
8.
20
He's holding his
points.
38. No, he's still going to win.
I didn't put the
Yeah.
score in. This is the score.
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
okay. Oh,
See, the problem
okay.
is, guys, Josh has been a bit delayed on updating the scores
Yeah.
I'm
Not
sorry. I'm
fulfilling
sorry.
his duties.
Yeah.
for us. Last time I
don't know
tell
what
you,
to
you
tell
have a
you
big,
guys.
beautiful brain.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
you can
not
fire
so
me
big or
after
beautiful.
this one.
Okay.
I'm probably not worth it. I guess that's
Well,
Josh
this is a
G's decision.
big victory for Ari.
Yeah.
Oh,
to
what's
start
the
off
blank?
set.
We should do a little thing. What do you guys think the blank is in chat?
Well, in honor of
Um,
Cesar, I think it is an S. Solar.
in the YouTube chat, tell me what you guys think the last blank is in the bottom left corner, and we'll figure it out and we'll get back to you. Okay. Anyways, that was a pretty exciting game. Really well played, like we said.
Yeah,
by
it
both
feels like the
players.
players are getting
Yeah.
stronger as this set goes on. Like we've just seen each game, it feels like the players are playing a bit sharper. What happens sometimes, I think, in tournaments is you come in a bit nervous, a bit jittery, and it might take a few games to feel sort of relaxed and like instead of overthinking, you sort of become more present.